Welcome to the last episode of Leader's Edge, Season 4. Good evening to our avid viewers. Our speaker for tonight is a gem not to be missed. She started her journey with Nestle Philippines Incorporated in 1996. Her engagement with Nestle, however, was not limited to the Philippines. Since 2004, she has been assigned to multiple international business units, including Switzerland and Thailand. In 2009, she returned to Nestle Philippines as the head of corporate learning and development. Soon thereafter, she was promoted as senior HR business partner for technical operations divisions. Additionally, she is a certified accelerated coach under the International Coach Federation. She's also a certified Total Rewards Fellow conferred by the ASEAN Total Rewards Institute, Singapore. She is also a fellow in People Management with the People Management Association of the Philippines. Our speaker has a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of the Philippines. She completed her postgraduate studies in labor and industrial relations from UP Diliman as well. To talk about diversity and inclusion in the workplace, I am so happy to present to you the Senior Vice President and Human Resources Director of Nestle Philippines Inc., Mitzie Antonio, CTRF, FPM. Hello, Mitzie.
Hello, Mike. Good evening to you, and good evening to our participants this evening.
Wow, I'm so excited to listen to this session. I'm also an HR person, so I'm hoping to learn so much from you. So
now, I'm sure it's going to be a learning from each other.
So I'm all ears. Go ready? Ready ka na? Go ahead.
Okay. So this evening, what I'm going to talk about is really how we bring to life diversity and inclusion advocacy in the workplace. And of course, using the example of how we do it at Nestle Philippines. So at this point, Mike, let me just maybe share my screen. Okay, just give me a sec. All right. Can you give me a sign that you can see the screen now?
Yes, very clear. We can see the screen.
Okay, great, Mike. So let me start by introducing who is Nestle. Okay, Mike, Nestle is a global company. We've been operating in close to 150 countries across the world, and with a total of about more than 300,000 employees worldwide. We are mainly a manufacturing company with more than 400 factories all over the world. Now, if we zoom in into the Philippines, Nestle in the Philippines has been operating for 110 years. In fact, Mike, this year we are celebrating our 110th year. So yes, 110 years. The company has been, a partner of generations and generations of Filipino families. And I am proud to say that 90% of the products that we manufacture in the Philippines is produced here and consumed by Filipinos. And we continue to be, and this is something we really safeguard, we continue to be the most trusted food and beverage company in the country and in our industry, serving close to 98 million servings of Nestle products every day. So I'm really happy and proud to be with Nestle. And this year, I'm celebrating my 25 years. So yun yung time siguro na pwede pa yung below 18 mag-start. So this is Nestle in the Philippines. And we are a very diverse and very, very engaged group of employees in the company. In fact, truth be told, we are close to 70% millennials and Gen Z. So kahit na 110 years na Nestle in the Philippines, inside the company, are really young leaders, young professionals thriving and delivering real high performance. In the last org culture survey that we did, Mike, we actually gained a high score of 94% engagement. So this is, I think, a testament again to the passion and the drive of our employees at Nestle. Our gender balance, and later on I'll share more numbers, we are in fact, you could say 50-50, and this is for management and leadership positions. And there's quite a story how we have achieved this, and that's going to be, you know, the main focus of the talk this evening. We remain also to be a source of talent, not only of products, but, you know, exporting talent outside the Philippines. We have about 32 Filipino expats assigned all over the world, including the United States, including Switzerland and other countries in Europe and in Asia. And happy also to say that in terms of industrial relations in Nestle Philippines, we are proud to say that we have about 8 unions, all peaceful. And in fact, we've signed 5-year CBAs with all of our unions. So we're very happy with that as well. So this is Nestle in the Philippines. We are really driven, a company that's really driven by purpose and guided by our values. Our purpose is anchored on unlocking the power of food to enhance the quality of life for everyone, for every generation. And of course, our values, if I could sum it into just one word, it's really just all about respect. And it's about respecting ourselves, respecting others, diversity, and the future. That's why diversity and inclusion is really part of our advocacy, because it is embedded in the values in the company. So, moving on, this is the why, Mike. This is why we do what we do in the space of diversity and inclusion. It really is for us an integral part of the way we conduct our business. Why? Because for us, diversity and inclusion impacts 3 major things. Number 1, it impacts the way we work together. It impacts our org culture. You mentioned you are also an HR practitioner, and you know how important it is to build an organization's culture, right? It is who we are, it is how we interact with each other, how we build our teams. So it impacts the way we work, leveraging on the diverse sets of employees within the company across all levels. It also impacts the way we think. And this is reflected in how we do continuous improvement, how we innovate and renovate all of our products and the recipes that we deliver. So it affects really on how we think about the diverse needs of our consumers, ang mga pamilyang Pilipino, ang mga bata, matatanda, who actually drink Nescafe, Milo, Bear Brand. And this is a diverse group, di ba? Magmula bata hanggang sa pinakamatanda, drinks and eats our products. So that's the diversity that we leverage on. So it is so diversity, or thinking diversity is important on how we innovate and renovate our products. And then the third, yes, go ahead,
Mitzie, is the diversity a conscious effort or it just happened?
No, it's a big effort. Oh. It's a very conscious and concerted effort. And later on, I'll show you the many parts and the many elements, the many allies that any company, any organization will be needing to make it happen. And then finally, our why is because of the society that we interact with. To be a responsible corporate citizen, we must respect as well that our society is composed of different sets of people, groups of people. So this is the why, Mike, and I think it's important to any organization who's starting this journey on diversity inclusion must first begin with their why. Now the how. The how part, in our case, our strategy for diversity and inclusion, we chose to operate in 4 pillars. And then it is underpinned by the youth, okay, and kabataan. So let me just maybe spend a few moments here. What are the 4 pillars of our diversity and inclusion strategy? The first one is gender. So men, women. I think that's quite obvious. The second pillar is the differently abled, people with disabilities, people with different talents, different abilities, whether physical or mental. The third is, of course, respecting and celebrating the differences, the LGBT plus community. The fourth is around race and ethnicity. So our diversity and inclusion is anchored on programs that respects, all groups of employees, people, individuals, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, regardless of abilities, regardless of their ethnicity and race. And finally, underpinned by youth. Okay, so far?
Yes, okay so far. I'm just curious though. How about faith? Is it part of your
Yes.
diversity as well? Yeah.
Yes, the faith element comes into the race and ethnicity.
Ethnicity. Okay.
Yes. So
Good.
that's now how? Let me give you some examples, Mike. How do we bring it to life? These 4 pillars. Okay. So there are many, I'd say, activations or many buttons that we could focus on. The very first one, because I am in HR, is of course employee benefits and recognition programs. So some examples of employee benefits, we recently launched what we call a parental support policy. It's essentially the leaves. The leaves for maternity and paternity, we also extended it to couples who are of same sex, same gender, also to couples who have decided to adopt, so rather than just biological children.
Wow.
So then it becomes gender neutral, and we defined our mothers and fathers as primary and secondary care givers. So it does not, pwedeng ang mother ang secondary, pwedeng ang so that's one example. Medical benefits also extended to couples, partners of same gender partnership. Education and training is another one. We've launched a program on unconscious bias. I don't know if you've heard about it. Unconscious bias training.
Yeah.
So it's
You can elaborate a bit. Yeah.
It's actually a workshop where we talk about na kung minsan hindi natin alam, but we sometimes make decisions based on biases and prejudices na hindi natin alam is internal to us.
Yeah.
So our aim is that mapag-usapan lahat yon such that pag aware na tayo, there's a more conscious way of saying, teka, bakit ko nga ba, for example, hiring decision. That's a very basic one. In hiring for a certain position, example lang, secretary. I think it's a simple example. Always, immediately, nisip natin, di ba? Gender bias tayo. Ang secretary dapat babae.
Yeah.
Pero hindi kailangan, right? So this is where we draw it out. Also in succession planning, career planning, in hiring decisions. So we bring out the unconscious bias that we have. And then as mentioned earlier, we have 5 factories across the Philippines. And truth be told, most of our machines, because we are a Swiss company, puro yan German-made, Swiss-made. So matataas, mabibigat. We had to tweak it a bit such that our women workers in the lines could actually operate the machines. Hindi natin kailangan lahat macho ang magpaandar ng mga linya sa production line. So we took an effort to neutralize, kumbaga, gender neutralize our production lines. And then, of course, a slew of Nestle Needs Youth, that's what we call the program, Nestle Needs Youth initiatives, which I will also later on elaborate. Maybe at this point, Mike, let me show a quick video. I hope
please go ahead.
Sound will work to show an example of an employee benefit, the one that I talk about the parental policy. So let me know if the sound is good.
Our expansive policy with longer leaves are not only for the mothers or primary caregivers, but they're also for the fathers or secondary caregivers. Imagine having 126 days of paid leaves for our primary caregivers with an option to extend of up to 8 weeks of unpaid leaves. Now, for the fathers or the secondary caregivers, among others, now we have 4 weeks of paid leaves. In this way, we're able to ensure our employees that we give the utmost importance to the welfare and foundation of their family through policies that underwent well-reviewed enhancement. Today in Nestle Philippines, we celebrate love with diverse, inclusive, and enhanced parental policies for parental support like no other.
Wow, that's very impressive. Huh? When was this launched, if I may ask?
So we'll launch it in pre-pandemic time, February 14, in time for Valentine's Day. Correct, because it really is a love like no other, diba? A parent's love for their children is I think it's the best love we can ever ask for.
Yeah.
Okay, so this slide, I thought of inputting it because I'm sure in the minds of our participants, our listeners and viewers, siguro inisip nila, how will you know if you're successful? How will you know if you're even progressing? I must admit it, in the beginning, when we started our programs, we were also at a loss. How do you measure the success of gender inclusion? How do you know you've attained the balance? So, of course, obviously, numbers help. So in this portion of my sharing, you will see more and more numbers. But let me also say at the forefront that numbers is just numbers, and this should not be diversity inclusion, should never be about numbers. It should never be about how many men, how many women, or how many gays or lesbians in the company. But it's a start, it's a starting point. So we know what's our baseline. So here we have in our org culture survey, an internal climate survey inside the company, we have what we call inclusion index. So this measures how employees feel, whether they feel respected, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender or belief or faith. So what you can see on this slide is from a baseline, this was back in 2016 of 79%. And sa amin, baksak yan. So over the years, it has gained a few points, up to 10 points, now about 89%. So it is not yet perfect. We also still have a long way to go, but at least it's telling us we are stepping towards the right direction. So more about the numbers. Here's a little bit more interesting numbers. Total Nestle in the Philippines, believe it or not, it's about 42% women, 58% men. Okay. For senior leadership positions, and this one, we're so obsessed by measuring how many of our assistant vice presidents and above are men and women. And we're now about 47-53. So almost 50-50.
Yeah, not too bad.
Not too bad, right?
Yeah.
Management is including all supervisors na. So here, 53% women. So it's there. And then for the rank and file, 35% women. Now you might say, 35% lang eh. So what's so what's so impressive or what's so successful about this? Again, I share with you, we come from a very manufacturing-based employees. We have 5 factories. 90% of our employees are in the factories. You know, Mike, about siguro mga 8-10 years ago, we started ang aming rank and file 2%. 2% minsan bumabaksak pa talaga in the production line. And our factories, if you know Nestle, our factories in the majority are in the Calabarzon area, Cabuyao, Laguna, Batangas. So, at alam natin, culturally speaking, sa Pilipinas, di ba yung ang ating mga padre de pamilya ang talagang kailangang pumasok sa factory at ang mga nanay, mga ate, maiwan na lang muna sa bahay. So this was a real talagang journey to para maiangat from 2% to 35% today.
That's a big increase already, no? Considering where it's coming from.
True, Mike. And we had to do talagang deliberate efforts. Some of the challenges, for example, Mike, pag nagharap ka ng candidate sa factory manager at mamimili siya, di ba? Natural. Pag nagharap ka ng isang female, isang male, ano likely ang, di ba? Maybe wala siya talagang bias, pero may predisposition na piliin ang men, you know, the male candidate. So we have to present every time ang aming job sa HR, present equal numbers, equal opportunities, male and female. So then kahit papaano, you know, matemper yung ating mga certain prejudice or certain biases. Okay, so moving on, just some of the examples or how do we accelerate the development of women leaders, especially this one is for leadership positions. This one's quite deliberate. When we identify high potential talents amongst our women leaders, we really take pains to create what we call individualized development plan para talaga masuportahan sila at matulungan sila how they can achieve and, you know, grow their career. We have to respect, for example, my certain age ang ating mga women leaders na baka magsuslow down muna, maybe because they've decided to have children. Diba? But later on, can pick up again the career and go and accept higher positions, promotions. In my experience, Mike, naranasan ko yung talking to women leaders, asking, pwedeng wag muna silang ma-promote this year or next year or in the next 2 years, 3 years. Kasi they want to have children. And we understand that. We respect that. And then babalikan natin sila in the next and after they've settled in on their personal lives. So that hindi sila ma-set aside.
I myself have encountered people like that in my organization. Yeah.
Correct. Sad to say, in some companies, once nagsabi ka na, and I'm also a woman leader, minsan talagang sineset aside ka na habang buhay.
Yeah, permanent.
Diba? Permanently. So we don't want to fall into that trap. Coaching and mentoring is also important for women. So we have women leaders who coach and mentor other younger women leaders to really support them. Okay. So these are some examples on how we accelerate the development of women leaders. Now, if we deep dive on the associates or the rank and file, I think I've shared with you earlier already on how we try to support them. One is the neutralizing the production lines.
Yes.
Another example is providing them with soft skills training. And this is in partnership, in fact, with ILO and ECOP, the Employers Confederation of the Philippines. So bakit soft skills in the factory lines for women? Because we know minority sila sa production lines. There's a unspoken fear, like hindi sila magsi-speak up. So we want to use soft skills training to give them the courage and confidence. They can speak up. They can share their ideas. Kahit na, for example, in the production line, 10 yung men, tapos 2 lang silang babae. So that's why we focus on soft skills training for the women in the production lines. And there's another benefit, I would say, for our participants who are dealing with unions. So in my 25 years, Mike, now that we have women union officers, mas na-enjoy ko talaga ngayon makipag-usap sa union. It's different. It's the chemistry, the culture, the kind of topics we talk about with the union. Hindi na always, nagbabanggaan.
Confrontation, wala yung pagka-confrontation na.
Yes. It's very diverse na, very different topics that we talk about. And mas rin sila, mas broader din ang mga usapan at ang mga, the minds just open up when you bring in the diverse perspectives, men and women. So it's a benefit also in terms of industrial relations or union management. Okay, I think I'm almost done. To say, Mike, you asked earlier about was it was it a conscious effort?
Conscious effort, yeah.
Yeah, so it is, and we had to recognize we can't do this alone as a company, as an organization. We have to work with our government, with the industry. We have to work with NGOs to make sure that the programs can happen and that it can be sustained. So for example, then our Nestle Needs Youth programs, this is in partnership with the Department of Education, with the universities, with the youth organizations in the country. Okay, and then conscious effort, yes, in fact, we do have a 5-year plan. We just recently revised this from 2021 all the way now to our ambition in 2025 on making sure that we can always have the diverse talents that we need. Okay, and then LGBT, this year is in fact our first year that we will go out there and really be part of a group of companies that celebrates pride in their respective organization. Okay, I think I'm almost done. Maybe in closing, Mike, I'll show this one last video.
Okay.
A short video, just to share with the audience on how we celebrated recently the International Women's Month.
Please do, Mitzie.
Thank you.
Being in a factory manager role, sa totoo lang, I'm truly motivated and inspired because I know I can make a difference. Difference in choosing to challenge every day.
Serve the bigger purpose. There is always something bigger than you. So my final tip for Smash, H, ano kaya yon? It is to address this thought. Nobody asked me to. I'm sure, ang dami-dami ko nang ginagawa. Ang dami ko nang kailangan gawin. So H is this. Help out. Do you need to be asked?
A woman coach recently that I read said it's not about work or life, it's all about life. And work is
Agreed.
part of life, and your family is part of life, your kids is part of life. And yes, you need to juggle these things. But in essence, you talk about your life and you make your choices for that.
In the end, because as I mentioned, I was raised by a strong mom, a working mom, I've come to peace with it. And in fact, I love living this life.
So there, Mike.
Wow. Thank you, Mitzie.
I
Yeah.
hope I was able to share some nuggets of learnings and helpful advice to those.
That's a lot of nuggets, especially for me. I'm going to borrow some of your ideas and then have a meeting with my HR head right away after this session. But Mitzi,
Good.
just curious. I'm just curious on a couple of things, if I may. When you at the start, you said that what's driving all these activities is your principal value of Nestle for respect, right? But I can be wrong, but I would imagine that top management would probably be looking also for perhaps what is the significant, or is there an anticipated productivity efficiency or increase in results? Was there that anticipation as well for this to be pushed?
Anticipation of productivity or results, at the beginning, it wasn't really that obvious.
Mhm.
But what we've realized is that when you bring together diverse people with diverse mindsets and diverse perspectives, talagang, for example, if it's a brainstorming session on a
Yeah.
new recipe or new idea, believe it or not, it just explodes. For example, when I was HR business partner for technical division, I was in a session with uh, senior men leaders in with the factories. We were doing succession planning for a certain position. Hirap na hirap kami because we were going through the names. And then finally, when one said, bakit nga ba puro lalaki yung tinitingnan natin? Ba't hindi natin tingnan tong pool ng women talent? Parang, oh my God, oo nga. From kanina, 5 pangalan lang tinitingnan natin, naging 25 names na because only lumawak yung perspective.
Yeah. Naging malaki yung pool, no?
Yes.
When you consider all the potential workforce or teammates, without any segregation, no? So yeah, ganda nga ng sharing. This is really an eye opener talaga. And I would wish that there are more companies in our country who will adopt such a way of thinking that everybody should be inclusive, as diverse. I'm a firm believer of diversity. In fact, I've always remembered, if I may just share, I don't know if it's Sesame Street or Electric Company, about that king who called for a party and asked everybody to bring food. And when they asked him, what do you want to bring? And he said, you bring watermelons. And then everybody brought watermelons. But it's not going to be a fun party if we're all the same, right? Yeah. So the
Correct.
variety, and we'll have more fun. We'll have a better society as well, right?
Amen to that, Mike. And
Yeah.
that's why also I accepted this invitation, because I know that many of our audience will be coming from across in the industry,
True.
and we need to work together to make this happen. As you said
Ah.
nga, for a better society. So walang mangyayari kung every single company or organization will just do on their own and
Tama.
not share how we could make this work.
I'm a firm one of your soldiers from now on
Allies, Mike.
diversity and inclusion.
We are
Right?
allies into this.
We're allies, and I hope that there are ways for us in the industry to collaborate to further bring out this program of Nestle to the rest of the organizations here in the Philippines. So, any closing remarks, Mitzie, for our audience?
Well, first of all, again, thank you to the Leaders Edge. Thank you for this opportunity that you gave us so that we could do this sharing. And I really ask and my request to everyone, to our audience, is to let's help each other. Let's become allies in making this advocacy a reality for diversity and inclusion and for a better society, and to be a force for good, right? So maraming salamat uli, Mike. Good evening and good night to everyone.
Salamat, Mitzi. And dear audience, here we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Now, do tune in to next Wednesday for another talk featuring Mr. Edward Musia. He will be talking about how to cope with depression and anxiety in the workplace. That will be for the first episode of Season 5. Click on like, share, and subscribe here on this channel so that you will not miss a single episode. Why? Because learning is a never-ending journey with limitless vistas. Good evening. Thank you very much.